Hey! Cool, hello. So, I just spent the entirety of August writing a heck of a ton of poems. I wrote a poem every day for 31 days, and this was the very last poem I came to. I wrote this on the 31st of August. Here we go. When I think of endings, I think of my shoelaces. I look down at them from where I've been standing and I think to myself, well hey, I stood up. I also look at the way they wind between each side of my shoe and pull them together. If I were at the end of my lace, then good God, what a caught up mess I've left behind me. And if I'm in the middle of the lace, then whichever way I go, I'll end up tied up back with the place I would have gone if I'd gone the other way. If I'm the lace in all its entirety, then I am definitely at the bottom of the shoebox. Tangled up with all the other laces, fighting to pull ourselves taut in the hope of forming some kind of tapestry. And I remember the family I saw in one of those once. It happened just after the race, but before the children found the pearl. So God knows how the shipmast ended up in the forest. But the man who hung is either dead and alive, except it does not matter, because he dreams of love. Or at least the preamble, wishful dreaming want of love. It was something God was working on in the early days, something fiery before he could show Adam the real thing, and there was something to do with family here. But the real thing, of course, God found inspiration for in the ocean. There is so much to learn just from staring at it. Even God impressed himself, which is why the ocean is so gorgeous when it breaks away at the edges of the land his greatest creation walks upon, or drives upon, or rides upon, but definitely powers up the old steam train upon, because it's the only way to stay on track. There was something to do with family here, and I arrived in the lounge with the wires hanging from the ceiling that lift my shoulders to my ears and my hands to the keg drips and the coffee grind. I had so many jobs to do, so I rubbed my hands together. I had so many jobs to do, so I caught and held a breath. I had so many jobs to do. I am definitely a steam train. I had so many jobs to do, and there was something to do with family here, so I stormed through the door like a storm and worked, leaving cracked crockery and shattered skies in my wake. But at least I was clean. Do you remember that? Do you remember how clean I was? Does anyone remember how clean I was? Do I leave anything of mine here? Did I even matter? God, I remember that. I remember choking on that from the off. I remember choking on that on the unlucky day. I remember choking on a stupid idea that grew and grew. It's why mad scientists are both clinically insane and revolutionaries. Does my writing avoid insanity? Maybe a month isn't enough. The idea was disgusting. I hope you're all safe. Just don't stand next to me when I'm juggling fruit, because apparently I can't do it. Do you remember that? I never caught them, but they always landed in the cannon. I remember breathing halfway through. I remember not catching enough oxygen, but at least the catfish let go of my jaw, and the wasps kept drinking. I don't think I'm insane. Think being the optimum word. But I could dismiss sanity with sarcasm like, oh yeah, I'm the mad one. And it was there that I found this weird borderline hatred for the majority of people who represent my gender, so thanks, gents. And after that spout of anger at the world, there was something to do with family here, until of course I spotted a deep hole entitled money. So I dug around in there for a bit, wielding a cute little torch called love, in the hope of stumbling upon some semblance of correlation. Spoiler, I didn't find any. What I did find was a partner, and she helped me climb to the surface and reminded me why colours are important and that we're two very creative bullets of the same Irish gun. It was hard to move forward after that. Do you remember that? So I said the first of my goodbyes and said farewell to yesterday, but I don't think he heard. I was too busy flying into space. But the journey takes a while, so I wrote my best friend and I some instructions for happiness, but they came out more like reminders to smile and not be sad, but they mention flowers and they make me smile, so it could be considered uplifting. On the edges of the atmosphere, where the spider's web is no longer spun, I found an old friend, and I'm so glad I did, because she is stronger than she thinks she is, and we're both going to graduate at the same time. She is definitely going to save more lives than me, and despite popular opinion, lives are worth saving. It means that there is more love, and that's what keeps circles turning. I remember that. I remember the waterfall. I remember fighting tears that day. I remember the ghost camouflaged against the whitewater rush. I remember thinking of the past and that it cannot be lost, so I must keep remembering. And I remember remembering because I'd written a poem that day. So I stared down at the top and looked down into the what could have been, and was glad I did. I remember a memory that's never going to happen. And then I remember running away for a couple of days more. Do you remember that? I remember the pretty optimism of a place whose optimism exists only in the corners. And I remember the jacket, and the philosophy of a direction, and the nonsense, and I remember apologizing. I'm sorry, there was something to do with family here, and I'm here. I'm at today, and I don't know where August went. I don't remember anything that happened. I just remember feeling a lot. Thank God I wrote it down. Thank you, August. I don't quite know how you did that. September's in for quite the ride.